Today we are going to see converting pseudocode to programs. So pseudocode, it is basically writing the flow of the program in simple and formal English words. So you also have to remember that pseudocode is a language free and it does not follow any syntax. So whereas a source code is a language specific and each language has its own set of syntax. Suppose you have to write one program, okay, using C language, then you should know all the syntax and semantics relevant to the C programming. Okay, but for pseudocode, it is not compulsory. You can write it as in you can write in English single simple words. Okay, so pseudocode only gives a vague idea and merges related statements as one step. Then we are going to see what is compilation process. So a compiler, it is a computer program which helps you transform source code written in high level language into low level language. So the compiler also makes the end code efficient, which is optimized for execution time and memory space. So compiler process goes through lexical analysis, syntax analysis and semantic analysis at the front, and code generation and optimization at the back end. So compiler translates the code written in one programming language to some other language without changing the meaning of the code. So it will not going to change the meaning of the code. Okay. So the compiling process includes the basic translation mechanism and the error detection. So we can see over here the diagram of compiler. See, this is a diagram that it converts high level language into low level language, okay, through the compiler. Okay, now we are going to see the steps for the language processing system. So the input will be the source program, right, and the preprocessor, it will considered as a part of the compiler. Okay, so it is a tool which produces input of the compiler, and it deals with the microprocessing, augmentation, language extension, etc. So this interpreter, it is also look like a compiler, and it the same functioning of the compiler and interpreter is same, but it translates the high level language into low level language, machine language. And the main difference of the interpreter is that it will read and transform the code line by line, and compiler reads the entire code at once and creates the machine code at a time. So that's why we prefer a compiler instead of interpreter. Okay, then assembler, we know the assembly language, we have seen what is assembly language, and it translates the assembly language code into machine which is understandable language. Okay, so the output of the result of the assembler is known as the object file, and which is a combination of machine instruction as well as the data required to store this instruction in a memory. Then after the assembler, linker and loader comes. A linker helps you to link and merge the various objects file to create an executable file. So all these files might have been compiled with the separate assemblers. So the main task of linker is what? It search for all the called module in the program and find out the memory location where all the modules are stored. Means it finds the addresses for that. Then loader, it is a part of operating system and it performs the task of loading executable files into memory and run them. So it also calculates the size of the program, which creates additional memory space. Okay, so this is your function of all the your processing system. So these are the simple steps of your language processing system. So then good programming practices, this is very important part actually. See, if you want to write a good program, then we have to follow certain rules. Okay, So we are going to see one by one. First is follow the latest rules in the C standard compiler documentation. Whatever rules they have you defined for the C standard compiler documentation, that you have to follow. Then use logical variable names to avoid any confusion. Logical variable names means, suppose you are using any variable for addition purpose, then give the proper name as a addition to that. So if you look at the name, you can recognize the functioning of that variable. Okay. Then third one is the use of get fgetS proves to be safer than getS function. So we will use fgetS than getS function, because for the security purpose. Okay. Then the proper use of escape sequences like /t or /n improves the reliability of the code. Okay. That we are going to see what are escape sequences and how they are how we are going to implement that. Then make use of functions whenever the code seems too long and the task that we need to perform is operation specific and multiple. So don't use shorthand notations extensively, and if you are not quite familiar with it. Okay. Then the use of comments in C, they are very good practices. What is the use of comments in the C programming language? See, suppose you have to write a big module, right? And if you want to mention the function of a specific part or specific module, then using that command you can write the functioning or the overall use of that module. And if suppose another person who also aware of C language, he can also read that comment and he can easily get that code. Okay. So make use of switch statements instead of making complications. Nested if statements we can use. Okay. So these are certain practices that we are going to use in the C programming. Okay.